Every 33 seconds, someone in the United States dies from cardiovascular disease. Not every minute, every 33 seconds. That makes it the #1 killer in the country, ahead of every single type of cancer combined. And here is the part that should genuinely bother you. The majority of that damage is not driven by genetics. It is not bad luck. It is driven by what people put on their plate 3 times a day without a second thought. 15 years of clinical practice, and I will tell you what I see over and over again. Patients walk into my office already on 2 or 3 heart medications, blood pressure pills, statins, blood thinners, and not one doctor has ever sat them down and explained which specific foods are silently inflaming their arteries, and which ones could actually begin reversing the damage. That conversation does not happen in a 12-minute office visit. There is no billing code for it. The system profits when you manage a disease, not when you prevent one. Subscribe and hit like right now. What you are about to hear is the conversation your cardiologist does not have time to give you. 5 specific, food-based changes that clinical research ties directly to improved heart function, lower inflammation, and reduced cardiovascular risk, especially after 50. So why does food matter more after 50 than it did at 30? Because your cardiovascular system is no longer the same system. After 50, your arteries begin to stiffen, the walls lose elasticity, they become less able to expand and contract with each heartbeat. That is not a disease. That is a measurable, age-related change that happens to everyone. But here is what accelerates it. The endothelium, that is the microscopically thin inner lining of every blood vessel in your body, starts to lose function. When the endothelium is healthy, it acts like a protective barrier. It keeps blood flowing smoothly, prevents clots from forming, and regulates how tightly or loosely your vessels contract. After 50, that lining becomes progressively more vulnerable to damage, and when it is damaged, everything sticks. Cholesterol, inflammatory proteins, platelets, that is how plaque begins. On top of that, your immune system shifts into a state that researchers call inflammaging. That is a real term in the medical literature. It means a chronic, low-grade inflammatory response that runs quietly in the background, year after year, gradually accelerating the buildup inside your arteries. Every single meal you eat either feeds that inflammation or dampens it. There is no neutral meal. Your breakfast this morning either helped your arteries or hurt them. That is why the standard advice of eat healthy is dangerously vague. It tells you nothing. You need specifics. You need to know exactly which foods protect your vessels and which ones are destroying them. That is what this video delivers. By the way, if you have been looking for ways to take your health seriously beyond just diet, a lot of you have already checked out Care Health. The link on my channel page, it has been getting a huge response lately. More on that later. Let's keep going. Let's start with the single most powerful food you can add to your plate for your heart: fatty fish. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, herring. These are not just protein sources, they are delivery systems for 2 specific molecules your cardiovascular system is starving for: EPA and DHA. These are omega-3 fatty acids, and here is what they actually do inside your body. When you eat fatty fish, EPA and DHA integrate directly into the cell membranes of the endothelial cells lining your arteries. They make those membranes more fluid, more flexible, and significantly less prone to the kind of damage that starts plaque formation. At the same time, omega-3s lower triglycerides. Those are the fat molecules circulating in your blood that contribute directly to arterial buildup. But the mechanism that matters most is inflammation. Your body runs 2 competing inflammatory pathways. One is driven by omega-6 fatty acids, which most people massively overconsume through processed seed oils. The other is driven by omega-3s. They compete for the exact same enzymes. When omega-3 intake is high, the balance shifts away from chronic inflammation and toward resolution. Your arteries calm down. The target is simple: 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week. Now, people always ask about mercury. For most adults, the cardiovascular benefit of eating fish far outweighs the trace mercury risk. And smaller fish like sardines carry almost negligible levels because they are low on the food chain. One thing worth knowing: wild-caught fish generally contain higher omega-3 levels than farmed. The difference is not trivial. If you can choose wild-caught, do. If you genuinely cannot eat fish, a high-quality fish oil supplement is a reasonable alternative. But food first, always food first. A capsule is never the same as a whole piece of salmon. The second food most people are not eating nearly enough of is dark leafy greens. Spinach, kale, arugula, beet greens, and the reason has nothing to do with vitamins or fiber. It has to do with a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that tells the smooth muscle cells inside your artery walls to relax. When those muscles relax, the vessel opens wider, blood flows more easily, blood pressure drops. It is one of the most important molecules in your entire cardiovascular system. After 50, your body's natural production of nitric oxide declines significantly. That decline is one of the key reasons blood pressure tends to rise with age. But here is what most people do not know. Dark leafy greens are loaded with dietary nitrates. When you eat them, bacteria living on the surface of your tongue convert those nitrates into nitrites. The nitrites then convert in your bloodstream into nitric oxide. Clinical studies show that a single serving of nitrate-rich greens can measurably lower blood pressure within hours. Not weeks, hours. That is real food, doing real pharmacological work inside your vessels. The practical target is one generous serving every single day, sautéed in olive oil with garlic or raw in a salad. Either works. Now here is something almost nobody mentions. If you use antibacterial mouthwash regularly, you may be killing the exact bacteria on your tongue that make this entire conversion possible. You rinse your mouth, destroy the bacteria, eat your spinach, and your body cannot convert the nitrates. The cardiovascular benefit disappears. That one detail alone is worth the price of watching this video. A plate of greens every day and let the bacteria on your tongue do their job. The third food is one most people think of as a treat, not as medicine. Berries. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries. These contain some of the highest concentrations of polyphenols in any food available to you, specifically a class of molecules called anthocyanins. Those are the compounds that give berries their deep red, blue, and purple color, and they do something remarkable inside your arteries. Anthocyanins neutralize free radicals. Free radicals are unstable molecules that damage cell membranes and DNA inside your arterial walls. That damage is constant, low-level, and cumulative. But here is the part most people never hear. LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, is not inherently dangerous. LDL becomes a problem only when it becomes oxidized. When free radicals attack LDL particles and oxidize them, those damaged particles trigger an immune response inside the artery wall. White blood cells rush in, engulf the oxidized LDL, and form foam cells. Those foam cells are the building blocks of plaque. Polyphenols from berries help prevent that oxidation step from happening in the first place. They interrupt the process before the damage begins. Clinical research backs this up clearly. Studies show that regular berry consumption over 8 weeks measurably improved arterial function and reduced systolic blood pressure in older adults. Not a dramatic overhaul. A handful of berries a day. The practical advice is simple. 1 handful daily, fresh or frozen, both are equally effective. Frozen berries are often picked at peak ripeness and flash frozen, which preserves the polyphenol content almost entirely. One warning, do not confuse real berries with bottled juice marketed as a berry drink. Those products have the beneficial compounds processed out and sugar added in. Sugar actively works against your heart. Eat the berry, skip the bottle. The fourth food is probably sitting in your kitchen right now, but most people are either not using it or using the wrong kind. Extra virgin olive oil. This is one of the most studied heart protective foods in all of clinical research, and the evidence behind it is not subtle. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal. If you have ever tasted a good olive oil and felt a peppery sting at the back of your throat, that is oleocanthal. That compound has a measurable anti-inflammatory effect similar in mechanism to ibuprofen, but without the gastrointestinal damage. Every time you drizzle it over a salad, you are delivering a mild anti-inflammatory dose directly to your bloodstream. Beyond that, the monounsaturated fats in olive oil improve the ratio of HDL to LDL cholesterol. HDL is your cleanup crew. It functions as a scavenger, picking up excess cholesterol deposits from inside your artery walls and transporting them back to the liver for disposal. More HDL means more active cleanup happening inside your vessels around the clock. The evidence is hard to argue with. The PREDIMED trial, one of the largest and most rigorous nutrition studies ever conducted, followed thousands of participants and found that people who added extra virgin olive oil to a Mediterranean-style diet had roughly a 30% lower risk of major cardiovascular events compared to those on a standard low-fat diet, 30%, from one dietary addition. The target is 2 to 3 tablespoons a day. Use it for cooking at moderate heat. Drizzle it on vegetables. Add it to salads. But here is the critical detail. It must be extra virgin. Refined olive oil, the kind labeled light or pure, has been stripped of the very polyphenols that make it protective. If the oil does not taste slightly peppery or bitter, the oleocanthal is gone, and so is most of the benefit. The fifth food is the one people underestimate the most: a handful of nuts, specifically walnuts, almonds, and ground flax seeds. Let me start with walnuts. Walnuts are the only tree nut that contains a significant amount of plant-based omega-3 in the form of alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. Your body converts ALA partially into EPA and DHA, the same anti-inflammatory molecules found in fatty fish. It is not a perfect conversion. Roughly 5 to 10% makes it through. But it is a meaningful secondary source, especially on the days you are not eating fish. Almonds work through a different mechanism. Not all LDL cholesterol is equally dangerous. Small, dense LDL particles penetrate artery walls far more easily than large, fluffy ones. Almond consumption has been shown to shift the distribution of LDL particles toward the larger, less harmful type. Same total cholesterol number on your lab report, but the particles themselves become less destructive. Then there are flax seeds. Ground flax seeds provide both ALA and lignans, plant compounds with antioxidant and mild estrogen-modulating properties that support vascular health in both men and women. The key word is ground. Whole flax seeds pass through your digestive system intact. You absorb almost nothing. Grind them or buy them pre-ground. The clinical evidence is striking. A large meta-analysis found that people who ate a handful of nuts at least 5 times per week had roughly 30 to 50% lower risk of fatal heart disease compared to people who rarely ate nuts. The practical target is 30 grams a day, roughly a small palmful. One critical warning: salted and oil-roasted varieties counteract the benefit. The added sodium stiffens your arteries, and the high-heat roasting damages the very oils that make nuts protective. Raw or dry roasted, unsalted. If dental issues make whole nuts difficult, nut butters with no added sugar or oil are a perfectly acceptable alternative. Now we need to talk about the other side of the equation. Because you can add every heart-healthy food we just covered, but if the inflammatory drivers stay on your plate, the benefit gets diluted or canceled entirely. There are 3 major enemies. The first is ultra-processed food, and I do not just mean obvious junk food. I mean the items sitting in your kitchen right now that are marketed as healthy. Flavored yogurts, granola bars, whole grain breakfast cereals with added sugars, deli meats labeled low-fat. These products drive inflammation through compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGs. AGs form when sugars react with proteins or fats at high temperatures during industrial processing. When you eat them, they directly damage the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels that we discussed at the start, the very lining you are trying to protect. The second enemy is hidden sodium. Most of the sodium people consume does not come from a salt shaker. It comes from bread, cheese, canned soups, condiments, and processed meats. Excess sodium stiffens artery walls, raises blood pressure, and accelerates the endothelial damage that leads to plaque. You can eat salmon and berries all week, but if your dinner includes canned soup and deli meat, you are feeding the same inflammation you are trying to fight. The third enemy is added sugar, particularly in liquid form. Sugary drinks, including fruit juices marketed as healthy, deliver a rapid glucose spike. That spike triggers a burst of insulin, which promotes fat storage around your organs. That is visceral fat, the type most strongly linked to cardiovascular disease. It is not the fat under your skin that threatens your heart. It is the fat wrapped around your organs, and liquid sugar is one of the fastest ways to build it. The practical rule is simple. Read labels. If sugar, high fructose corn syrup, or sodium appear in the first 5 ingredients, put it back on the shelf. Now let me tie everything together into something you can actually use tonight. I call it the heart plate. Picture your dinner plate divided into sections. Half the plate is vegetables, with at least 1 serving of dark leafy greens. A quarter is lean protein, ideally fatty fish 2 to 3 times per week, poultry or legumes on the other days. The remaining quarter is a whole grain or a starchy vegetable like sweet potato. Dress the entire plate with extra virgin olive oil. Add a handful of berries as a snack or dessert. Add a small palmful of raw nuts somewhere during the day. That is 5 heart-protective foods built into a single day without effort. Let me walk you through a sample day, so you can see how simple this looks in practice. Breakfast: oatmeal with a tablespoon of ground flaxseed and a handful of blueberries. Lunch: a large arugula salad with canned sardines, olive oil, and lemon. Dinner: Baked salmon with roasted vegetables drizzled in olive oil. Evening snack, a small handful of walnuts. Every single food we covered in this video is on that plate. No special ingredients, no expensive superfoods. Nothing you cannot find at an ordinary grocery store. And here is the key principle. This is not a restrictive diet. Nothing is banned. The strategy is displacement. When you fill your plate with foods that protect your arteries, the harmful ones naturally get pushed out. You are not fighting cravings, you are replacing them. One more thing, hydration. Adequate water intake supports blood viscosity and circulation. When you are dehydrated, your blood thickens. Thicker blood moves more slowly, clots more easily, and puts unnecessary strain on your heart. Drink water throughout the day. It is the simplest cardiovascular habit most people ignore. How old are you? Write it in the comments. I want to know which age group this information matters most for so I can focus future content exactly where you are. Before we wrap up the food discussion, I need to address 3 mistakes I see patients make constantly when they try to eat for their heart. Because good intentions with bad strategy still produce bad results. Mistake number 1, going low-fat across the board. The low-fat era of nutrition advice did enormous damage, and we are still paying for it. When manufacturers remove fat from a product, they replace it with sugar to maintain taste. The result is food that is technically low-fat but far more inflammatory than the full-fat original ever was. Low-fat yogurt, low-fat salad dressing, low-fat peanut butter. These products spike your blood sugar, drive insulin, and promote visceral fat storage. Your heart does not need less fat. It needs the right fat. Olive oil, nuts, fatty fish. Those are the fats that heal, not harm. Mistake number 2, relying on supplements instead of food. A fish oil capsule is not the same as a piece of salmon. Salmon delivers protein, selenium, vitamin D, and astaxanthin alongside the omega-3s. All of those compounds work together synergistically. Isolated nutrients in pill form rarely deliver the same benefit as the whole food matrix. Supplements can fill gaps. They cannot replace a plate of real food. Mistake number 3, and this is the one that undermines everything else. Inconsistency. One excellent meal does not undo a week of poor ones, just as one bad meal does not cancel a month of good habits. Your cardiovascular system responds to patterns, not isolated events. The same principle as exercise. Your body adapts to what repeats, only to what repeats. If you eat well 3 days a week and poorly the other 4, the net signal to your body is still inflammatory. Consistency is the multiplier. 3 good days is not heart-healthy eating. It is a hobby. 5 to 6 good days is where the measurable benefit begins. So if all of this is backed by clinical research, why has no doctor ever walked you through it? The answer is simple, and it has nothing to do with conspiracy. It has to do with time and money. The average primary care appointment lasts 12 to 15 minutes. In that window, your doctor reviews lab results, adjusts your medications, addresses whatever brought you in that day, and moves on to the next patient. There is no time for a 30-minute conversation about dietary nitrates, polyphenol mechanisms, or how to structure a heart-healthy plate. It is not going to happen. On top of that, nutrition education in medical school is minimal. Most physicians receive fewer than 25 hours of nutrition training across the entire curriculum. That is less time than they spend learning to read an X-ray. Most doctors are simply not trained to give detailed dietary guidance, even if they had the time to deliver it. The pharmaceutical model is efficient and profitable. Diagnose, prescribe, follow up, adjust the dose. Every step generates revenue. The nutrition model is slow, individualized, and generates no revenue for anyone in the chain. No pharmaceutical company profits when you eat sardines and arugula. No hospital bills for a plate of salmon drizzled in olive oil. That is not a conspiracy. It is an incentive structure, and the consequence is that millions of people over 50 are on medications for conditions that could have been significantly improved, or in some cases avoided entirely. With the right food on the right plate at the right time, nobody is coming to save you from that system. You have to educate yourself. That is exactly why this channel exists, to fill the gap that the system leaves wide open. Subscribe to Dr. Johnson and help us reach 100,000 subscribers. Every person who subscribes makes it more likely that the next person who needs this information actually finds it. Everything we covered today, the omega-3s, the leafy greens, the berries, the olive oil, the nuts, all of it points to one truth. The earlier you act on your cardiovascular health, the more of that silent arterial damage you can prevent or slow down. Diet is the foundation, but for many of you watching this, especially those already dealing with high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, early-stage heart disease, or a family history that keeps you up at night, there may be an opportunity to go further than food alone. That is where Care Health comes in. Care Health is a platform that connects you with clinical trials and innovative treatment options for conditions like heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and more. These are real, professionally supervised medical studies happening right now in communities across the United States. You get access to cutting-edge treatments, many of which are not yet available to the general public, at no cost to you, with a medical team monitoring your health every step of the way. I want to be straightforward. This is exclusively available to U.S. residents, and what I have been seeing over the past few weeks is that spots are filling up fast. Thousands of viewers from this channel have already signed up, and the feedback has been overwhelming. People are telling me they finally feel like they have options, that they are not just managing a condition but actively doing something about it. If this sounds like something that could change your health trajectory, here is how to check it out. Click the link on my channel page. It is the first thing you will see. If you are watching on your phone, tap my channel profile picture. That takes you straight to the channel page where the link is. A screenshot is appearing on screen right now showing you exactly where to find it. If you are watching on a television or a computer, a QR code is on screen right now. Open your phone camera, point it at that square, and tap the link that pops up. Takes 30 seconds. Registration is simple. You enter a few basic details, your name, your zip code, your age, and Care Health matches you with trials in your area that fit your specific situation. No long forms, no complicated process. Just a direct path to treatments and medical attention that most people do not even know exist. But I do want to be honest with you, this will not be available forever. Clinical trials have limited enrollment. Once the spots fill, they close. And with the number of people signing up from this channel alone, I genuinely do not know how long availability will last. Do not put this off and come back in 2 weeks expecting the same options to be open. That is not how clinical research works. Your heart health is not something that waits for you to get around to it. Every week you delay is another week of silent damage accumulating inside your arteries. You watch this entire video because you care about your health. Take that same energy and spend 30 seconds checking whether there is a trial near you. It could be the single most important thing you do for your cardiovascular future. Care Health. The link is on my channel page. Go now, while spots are still open.